After School Special Podcast. After School Special Podcast. After School Special Podcast. After School Special Podcast.
It's big. It's bold. It's the next step in adventure-packed live-action children's programming. From the makers of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the #1 children's show in America, comes Saban's VR Troopers.
What up, Latchkey kids and broken homies? It's your boy Double D coming at you solo dolo on the show. Yo. Today we're taking another trip down memory lane, so buckle up and ride with me. So do you guys remember the show VR Troopers? This show debuted in 1994. It was 1 year after Power Rangers, and it was produced by the same company, Saban. The show focused on 3 teenagers in their late teens, Ryan Steele, Caitlyn Starr, and J.B. Reese, all living in the fictional West Coast town of Cross World City, California. They regularly attended and were teachers at Tao's Dojo, a karate studio. Ryan was the most focused martial artist, JB was the computer wizard, while Caitlyn was a photographer and journalist for the local newspaper, the Underground Voice Daily. After a long search for his missing father, Tyler Steele, Ryan, along with his 2 friends, are summoned to a strange laboratory. Inside a digitized head of Professor Horatio Hart, who we later find out is a friend of Ryan's father. Professor Hart, who is basically a ripoff of the character Zordon from Power Rangers, and he kind of looks like John Thompson, the old coach for the Georgetown Hoyas, the college basketball team, who's now dead. Rest in peace. He explains the truth about his life's work of having developed extremely advanced virtual reality technology, or VR. It's actually a dimension existing alongside of ours, like a parallel universe, or the multiverse, I don't know. Within this dimension are mutants hell-bent on conquering both worlds. The main ruler of these creatures is known as Grimlord.
Grimlord, the powerful alien master, and his virtual reality robot mutant.
Hail, Grimlord, master of the virtual world!
Grimlord's alien form is a secret, but he has another form, a human form, known to the world as Carl Zichter, wealthy industrialist.
What does a man who already owns half the world desire most? That's right. The other half.
A billionaire industrialist, Carl Zichter, or Elon Musk. But thinking back on my childhood memories, from the 90s, in those days, we had tons of shows that echoed or blatantly ripped off other TV shows. Like Full House. It ripped off The Brady Bunch. Family Guy. It ripped off The Simpsons. And Friends. It ripped off Living Single. Sure, the VR Trooper stories were contrived, the acting was corny, especially Ryan Steele's talking dog Jeb, who was doing a weird Jack Nicholson impersonation. However, the show Power Rangers had me hooked on Japanese martial arts, action scenes, ultra-powered suits and robots. It's nothing like having real actors in suits. The show would only last 2 seasons, or 92 episodes to be exact. The actor Brian Hawkins played Ryan Steele. He went on after the show to do more voiceovers for like Japanese anime, and also he did the voice for Gold Ranger in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers a year later after the VR Troopers show ended. Michael Bacon as JB Reese, the science and computer nerd. He went on to do movie and video game animation. He became an animator. Sarah Brown, the actress who played Caitlyn Starr, she went on to become a soap opera actress on the show Days of Our Lives and General Hospital. She actually married the Power Rangers music theme composer Suki Levy, who actually directed the first episode of VR Troopers, but they later got divorced. But these actors, they didn't become major movie stars, but they still went on to do some good things. And man, Sarah Brown, whoo-wee, just like Amy Jo Johnson, the Pink Ranger on the Power Ranger show. Hot damn, had a crush on her ass. Whoo-wee. But another reason why I kind of wanted that show to go on, because I felt like even though most of the acting was terrible, I thought she stood out. Sarah Brown as Caitlyn Starr, I thought her acting was okay. Okay, not great, but compared to the other two, her co-actors I thought she did a better job and held my attention even as a 10, 11-year-old. I thought, okay, this show was a little edgier than Power Rangers as far as the characters that were involved. And even the fighting scenes, you had enemies and scrugs, and that's what they were called, getting decapitated and it was more graphic than Power Rangers. And this show was syndicated and not a part of Fox Kids Network, which meant it was able to be a little bit more explicit. Although it was still marketed to kids, it was a little bit more mature. It was more marketed, not so much kids, but more preteens, early teenagers. So I thought that's another reason why I kind of gravitated to this show, even though I like Power Rangers a hell of a lot better. But, you know, the hormones were starting to kick in, and I'm like, okay, I see you, Caitlyn Starr. I see you. But unlike Power Rangers 2, the dead giveaway, which was always funny to me, when you saw Power Rangers characters that were not in their suits, they would still wear the colors of the Power Rangers they wear when they transform. So the Red Ranger would wear red all day when he wasn't in the suit, and the Blue Ranger wear blue and blue. I'm like, damn, bro, if you're trying to hide your identity, you're really not doing a good job. But unlike the Power Rangers, the VR Troopers, they kind of wore whatever they wanted to wear, because the suits that they wore, even though it was stock footage from the Japanese shows, they were so multicolored, they couldn't really do that, which was great, because the actors and the actress, they got to kind of wear typical 90s gear, and they didn't always have to wear the same stuff. Well, same color stuff. Whereas Jason from Power Rangers, he always had to wear red, like he was a damn blood. And Billy on the Power Rangers always had to wear blue, like he was a damn Crip. Very weird. VR Troopers was a money grab from the beginning that capitalized on the success of its more popular sister show, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, in order to move toys and merchandise. Like Power Rangers, VR Troopers use existing Japanese footage that was recut, rebranded for American audiences. From 1994 to 1996, the show also tried to profit from the fascination with virtual reality. And that was a big thing in the early 90s. See the movie Lawnmower Man. It was just like that. People just so excited to put on basically a crude, like from the brand Oculus, where you put them on, but it didn't look like that. It looked terrible. But in the 90s, it was all the rage. So in the early 90s, as well as the success of Power Rangers, the show featured early CGI and video effects mixed with Japanese stock footage from 3 different Metal Hero series: Superhuman Machine Matilda, Dimensional Warrior Spillbond, and Space Sheriff Scheider. This kind of adaptation technique, turning multiple shows into one show, was originally used in anime with shows like Robotech and Voltron. Saban Entertainment created VR Troopers in cooperation with Toei Company and Cyberprod. Saban took from Toiko Satsu Japanese programming Metal Heroes. Matilda footage provided Ryan's Steele's VR Trooper suit, and it provided footage for Grimlord. Spillbond had JB and Caitlyn's battle suits, the Skugs, which are like the knockoff putties from Power Rangers, just some low-level thugs. They don't really do anything. Like if you like hit them together, if they touch each other, they like evaporate into, I guess they go back to virtual reality. Wasn't really quite explained. But season 1 took from 2 different shows: 1987 Superhuman Machine Matilda, and 1986 Dimensional Warrior Spillbond. The footage for Ryan Steele's Season 2 suit was taken from the show Space Sheriff Scheider, which was produced in 1984. So by the time VR Troopers came out, the shows that it was drawing from have been in production well ahead of where VR Troopers came out. In one instance, 10 years. So the American production, in cooperation with Saban and the Japanese programming, they had access to these suits. And sometimes they put the actors in these suits against a green screen because there were no actual original Japanese footage of the characters being together on the same show. So in order for all three characters to fight with each other, the producers and American writers created a new location called the Battle Grid. They wore new suits that were literally painted over red Power Ranger suits with all body spandex. It was the weirdest shit. As a kid, I didn't really notice it. I just thought, oh, okay, this is cool. They're going into... Power Rangers had the same thing. And I remember this. It was like Rita Raposa's like room where she would have the Power Rangers trapped and they couldn't use their powers. It escapes me what that room was called, but I'm guessing it was basically the same technique, sort of. But a fun fact for this show, it was originally called Cybertron. So VR Troopers was originally called Cybertron, and the pilot for this show, it starred Power Rangers actor Jason David Frank, who we all know as the Green Ranger and subsequently the White Ranger, and so on and so forth. He was originally Adam Steele. He was cast to be that character. And the show drew its source footage from the Matilda series. The story originally had one hero, Adam Steele, and he was supposed to merge with his virtual suit instead of transform into that state, or I believe that's to be true. The VR Trooper series was deemed to be successful, but not as successful as the Power Rangers franchise. Unfortunately for this series, the Japanese footage was predictably and quickly exhausted due to extreme cases where multiple scenes were put together in a single episode to the point where the stock footage had to be reused multiple times throughout the series. Similarly, another Saban program, Big Bad Beetleborgs, which would come out in 1996 and would end in 1998. So it was the same thing. They ran out of stock footage, and instead of reinvesting and seeing, hey, let's do what the Power Rangers did, that series ran into the same problem. But instead of just shutting down the series and saying, well, we made enough money, let's just move on to something else, they basically rebranded Power Rangers, new plots, new suits, new actors, but kept the series going. Unfortunately for VR Troopers, it didn't do the same thing. They just grabbed all that money from the merchandise and like comics. They actually had a comic for this. Marvel actually came out with a comic with VR Troopers and Power Rangers in 1995. They both blended together. So it was like one side of the comic, it was Power Rangers storyline, and on the other side, it was a VR Troopers storyline. That's just another fun fact. It also had, VR Troopers did a video game for the Sega Genesis. It also had a toy line, which, like I said, the show was built to peddle and exploit young American audiences, parents, into buying them more shit. And it worked because, you know, Power Rangers is a gold mine. VR Trooper comes in, and it was just more material, more content for them to gravitate to and ultimately cash in on. And at first, when I thought about this topic, I was thinking about talking about the Power Rangers first, but it's so well known and I still cherish the memories to the day. But this show, VR Troopers, stuck out to me because it was like the next show to try to take on the Power Rangers mantle, or at least attempt to become involved in the Saban universe. Kind of like what Marvel does, kind of like, you know, what we've seen in the last 10 years plus, you know, and Saban tried to do this for the American audience. Sure, you had more successful shows or similar shows like Big Bad Beetleborgs, like I mentioned earlier, and an even shorter lived TV show called Masked Rider. That's another show I could have did this episode about. Maybe I'll do another one, I don't know. But VR Troopers often gets lost in time, maybe for good reason, but I don't know. What do you guys think? You, the audience, leave us some comments, some feedback about what you thought about this show, or what you think about when it comes to shows from your childhood that got lost in time. Maybe it's some shows that we haven't talked about. Email us, afterschoolspecialpodcast@gmail.com, or talk to us on Instagram, afterschoolspecialpodcast. We're on Twitter, afterschoolspe3 on Twitter. And like I said, you can reach us at our website, afterschoolspecialpodcast.com. I hope you guys enjoy this show. I know you probably miss the other two hosts. This is a family unit, but every once in a while, we all like to stretch our creative juices and do our own thing. And we're going to do more episodes together. Don't worry, but it's just that time of the year. And we're looking forward to more feedback from you guys, because that's the obvious secret for podcasts to have success. It's an organic thing to bounce off, not only bounce off the host of the show, but just with each other. Maybe we can start like a group chat or something to that effect. And another thing that helps podcasts is just word of mouth. Maybe you guys have already commented about the show as far as, giving us a 5-star rating, and we appreciate that. And maybe you guys have already gave us feedback, but it's nothing like sharing the shows and the episodes and telling your friends and families about our show, because that's how we live. It's not money, but it's definitely giving us oxygen and the motivation to keep doing this. And from the bottom of our retro nostalgic hearts, thank you. And as always, if you want to contribute to the show as far as a Patreon, as far as buy me a coffee, you can still do that. It's still on our website. It's still on our LinkedIn link tree. Not LinkedIn, Jesus Christ. On our link tree that's located on our Twitter. You can find our Patreon and buy me a coffee links on that. So I'm Double D. We just talked about VR Troopers. You can find a lot of this information on the internet. Some great podcasts, some great shows that go more into depth. But I wanted to share my childhood memories from this show because, like I said, this one kind of got lost in time. And for the most part, I did enjoy this show. I know it sounded like I trashed it throughout this whole episode, but for the most part, I did like this show. It came on typically right after Power Rangers. I do remember that. The direction of the show was a little edgier. I honestly thought that these actors or characters in the show, I thought they were in college. And I was kind of thrown off when I read, oh, they're in high school. I thought they were in college. Because most of them had like real jobs. And in the Power Ranger series, they were just like students from what I remember. They might have, to me, Power Rangers was like a mix of Saved by the Bell and like, I don't know, Voltron or something crazy. But it was more of an emphasis on like a metal warrior series, or not metal like in the music, but more like machinery and more so high tech and trying to tap into that VR technology, as I mentioned earlier. So to summarize the whole thing, the show I thought was good. It wasn't great. And for our younger audience, if we do have a younger audience, if you look at the show now, it stinks. Gonna be totally honest with you. I mean, it's like bad good or good bad. It's funny. You can kind of see where the 90s were going as far as technology and what it was trying to exploit and trying to do. But once again, afterschoolspecial.com, afterschoolspecialpodcast.com. You can find us. You guys take care. Latchkey kids, broken homies. Adios.
Hey everyone, it's Aaron from After School Special Podcast. Like what you hear so far? But don't forget to subscribe and download the show on whatever platform you get your podcast. And just a friendly reminder, we have new episodes out every Friday. Thanks for listening, everyone.
You know, the hormones were starting to kick in, and like, okay, I see you, Caitlyn, Starr. I see you.